fight's not over.
Stop the fight!
People.
Everybody, I come here for everybody. Kill everybody. I'm the champ. I'm the king. Kill everybody. Ah!
All right, guys, welcome back to Broke Bets. We are on this layoff right here, but we're gonna get you guys this video early. We'll have the betting recap, card recap of the previous event. We went 11-4 on our picks, got the two title fights correct. But yeah, let's hop into this first fight here. We got Tatsuro Taira versus Jesus Aguilar. And we're taking Tatsuro Taira. This seems like it's a no-brainer. I mean, Taira has looked very good in his UFC fights here. Very good grappling, good size for flyweight. Has showed that he has the striking. And Aguilar on the other side looks decent, a decent fighter, but likes to pull guillotines. And against someone like Taira, you can't go on your back. You're going to be stuck there. And I think that he finds a submission here. What do you think?
Yep, Tatsuro Taira is that man. He's looked pretty good here in flyweight division, and I think this is another stepping stone. This is probably a little easier fight than his last one, right. So I'd expect him to find a finish here.
He made that fight versus Vergara seem pretty easy. Vergara missed weight too. The only thing I see in this fight as a scare is that Aguilar jumps guillotine and Taira gets caught in it. But he had pretty good defense for submissions already. Good top control. And I think he's going to be way longer in the striking. You see that huge reach advantage, 70 to 62.5. And yeah, I got him for a finish in round one by submission.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see Tatsuro Taira and Muhammad Makayev later down the line.
Possibly. I think Taira needs more time still as well.
No, they both do. They're still both only like 23, 21, 22, somewhere.
Right. Okay, Taira by submission, round one. Okay, for our next fight, we have Jeong Yeong Park versus Denis Tiuliulin. We're going with Jeong Yeong Park by decision here. Park's just got a good fight IQ and a good MMA style. Can stand with people, isn't particularly special on the feet, but can use a jab and compete on the feet. And then also having that kind of smothering wrestling and really good balance. And we've seen Tiuliulin get taken down before, doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. It looked better against Jamie Pickett, but in all honesty, Jamie Pickett really isn't a UFC caliber fighter. He's really lengthy and big guy, but doesn't have very great attributes as a fighter.
Yeah, we'll see. Bo Nick will probably run through him here in a couple months.
Yeah, I don't know. Is that rescheduled? I don't know. But
I thought so for March.
I do like Park to get in a small cage to get this fight up near the fence. If you've watched the Kriziev fight back or anything, he got that takedown a little too easily. And Tiuliulin likes to come into range swinging like 4 punches in a row. I don't see him just cleaning out that way. And when he faced Pickett, Pickett was in southpaw a lot, and Tiuliulin would use his right body kick straight to the body. If you have two orthodox fighters, you're not going to see that kick come out as much. So I like Park to stay away from a lot of the weapons here.
Yeah, I think the clear path for Park is take this fight down to the mat and should be able to control him for 3 rounds.
Yeah, he made that fight versus Holmes look pretty easy, so...
Yeah, I mean, like, whatever position they were in, he got the better of it. Okay. You know, he seemed like one step ahead.
Right. Okay, Jeong Yeong Park by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Yeon Kim versus Mandy Bohm. I can't tell if I said her name right, but for the last name, it does sound like, or when I look at it, it looks like it says bum, and she is a bum, because Kim's going to win this fight. Although she's on a losing streak, she does have better boxing. She goes to a lot of close fights, though, like that Jocelyn Edwards fight, although Jocelyn Edwards, I don't think that was a split decision. Shouldn't have been. Mandy Bohm didn't look good against Victoria Leonardo. Nothing special about this girl. Lost to Ariane Lipski, not the best fighter either, has some Muay Thai, not a great fighter though. But Kim's fought the better competition here. Should be better at range. I got nothing else for this one.
Yeah, I think Kim's fought the better competition, like you said, and hopefully that pays off for her.
And not that this is in South Korea, but I think maybe just because they built a card around South Koreans, they'll help them get decisions as well, possibly.
Right.
Yeon Kim by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Hyun Park versus Sang Choi. Again, I might butcher a lot of these names, but in this fight, I'm going with Park. Choi is not a bad underdog in this spot, just because I think Park's striking is underdeveloped. If you watch his striking, doesn't have a ton of volume, has a decent ground game, kind of won against a Muay Thai fighter in his last fight by taking the back and getting submission, but he was getting beat up on the feet. But as a Muay Thai fighter, we'll give him a break. I do like Choi's volume, and I think that could pose a problem. He's very in and out, very twitchy. Could make it hard for Park to get a read on him, but he showed a good chin in his fights. Never really went down from any big strikes. But I think he's going to be a smaller guy in this matchup, and if it comes to the grappling, Park should be stronger than him, able to hold him down. But the striking, like I said, could be very competitive. Maybe leg kicks at range would benefit Park, but I got nothing rolling on this fight. I don't like any betting spot in particular, and I'm just going to stick with Park by decision.
Yeah, especially with these young guns. For Park, he's finishing most of his fights in the first round or early second round, so you wonder how his cardio will hold up against Choi, who most of his fights all go to decision. So he has that long gas tank experience there.
It's like similar to the Bond Theme. It's not a great comparison, but like the Bond Theme Terrence McKinney thing is like Bond Theme had I don't know, like 4 hours of total cage time, whereas Terrence McKinney had like 30 minutes of cage time. It's like a scary thing for somebody to be way more experienced in that situation.
Right.
Okay. Park by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have Rinya Nakamura versus Toshimo Kazama. What I've seen, Nakamura, obviously a big favorite here because of his wrestling background. I'm going to pick him by by knockout in the first round. I really like the under 2.5 for this fight, and I've already bet that line at minus 160. I'd advise that. I think that at flyweight, I think he's bantamweight. Yes, bantamweight. For having the wrestling background, this dude is like the Asian Terrence McKinney. He uses the threat of his wrestling to be able to be very violent in his stand-up. And if you just watch his fights, it's him in someone's face, complete chaos from the bell when the bell goes off. And, that his resume says that. He's got 5 finishes and only 1 decision. And he likes to really mix it up with knees in the middle, front kicks, and just a wild style. He doesn't have great hands. He's not connecting in a bunch of punches. But most of all, why I like the under 2.5 is he's a little wild when it comes to the striking, and there's just that if he gets caught factor that makes me nervous. Kazama on the other side, I saw a decent game, and I actually saw decent wrestling from him. But I think with the pace that this will go on, and the wrestling and the strength advantage, because Nakamura looked really strong in his fights, I like him to get a finish here. And this is a very underrated fight that people should definitely keep their eyes on.
Yeah, like you said, both these guys are finishers too. They're both going for the finish, so that under 2.5 does look pretty good here.
Yes, sir. Nakamura, KO, round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Zha Yi versus Jeong Yeong Lee. Taking Lee in this one, I think that he has really good timing on his punches. If you watch his most recent win, he's just peppering the dude when the dude comes into range instantly. He's coming into range, I have a bigger reach than you, pop, right hand, sits the dude down like twice in that fight. And I really like what I see from this kid. Just, again, I've seen some of his older fights where he was a little bit more wild and got kind of hurt before. And I think he's kind of measured that up. He actually has a decent jab, kind of reminded me of Calvin Cater versus Josh Emmett with the way he was using it. And for Zha, I think this dude, he's decent. He hasn't faced many good fighters, but nothing like stands out about his game. Like, if you watch his fights, he gets taken down rather easily, but also likes to wrestle himself, so that's kind of strange. And then, like, for the stand-up, isn't particularly powerful or technical. So I think that Lee here is just going to pick him apart at range, and until he finds a knockout. I like a first-round knockout. Obviously, a pretty great finisher with his resume.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Lee, his last 3 fights, he's been in there for like a total of a minute and 10 seconds. He's getting these guys out of here pretty quickly.
Right. Yeah, I like this dude's style, and like I said, it's a really padded record for Zha, and Lee should control this fight, I think, from the first minute, and I do have them parlayed up here. And I'd advise, I think he's a good parlay piece. So Lee KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight we have Anshul Jubli versus Jeka Saragih. Probably the hardest names of the whole group. I'm going with Jeka in this fight, but this is a pick'em for a reason. I'm gonna pick him by knockout, but I really don't think actually either of these guys are too good. Say knockout round 2. I thought that Jubli, for how big this dude is, didn't look extremely coordinated for this weight class. Like, he was missing punches pretty frequently. Stands very straight up with his chin in the air, almost like Paddy Pimblett. There's nothing too crazy. Jeka on their side, kind of just like a powerhouse type of fighter, comes in, likes to crash and brawl. And something that really stood out to me that like leans me towards picking Jeka is the leg kicks. The low calf kicks, he really digs into the meat of the leg, and Jubli sits really in a wide stance here. He did show a pretty good chin in his most recent win. It was somewhat impressive. But Jeka also just has these unorthodox knockouts. And like I said, I don't think either of these guys are too great. I don't love any bet for this fight. But I will stick with Jeka for this one. Knockout in round 2.
Yeah, with Jeka, he has a ton more experience than what Jubli does, fight-wise. I think he's probably doubled him up on fights, if not tripled. And you talked about Jeka's leg kicks. He actually finished an opponent in 2018 due to leg kicks. So
right. And
that is pretty impressive.
It makes me feel a little bit better because I saw Jubli got kicked by a couple, and it didn't look too good for him. I also think both guys have a good chin, and it might come down to that leading to a finish. But like I said, nothing invested in this. I'd call this just a dead pick'em. There's not really an underdog in this fight. Okay, Saragih KO round 2. Okay, for the next fight we have Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt, or Fugitt. I'm picking Adam Fugitt in this fight. I'm not entirely convinced, and I could look like a fool in the future for picking this one, but Yusaku has looked good to me, but also could be exposed here. He hasn't faced the best competition. He looked good in his Contender Series fight against another very tall opponent, but Fugitt's also got some like unorthodox stylistic things that could challenge Yusaku. Also has showed some decent wrestling. So, he got Michael Morales down into on top of him from a takedown and kind of held him there for like 2 minutes. And that's a pretty strong dude to hold down. I will say Yusaku's probably the most technical fighter Fugitt might face, because I don't think Michael Morales is quite super technical on the feet, more just powerhouse. But Yusaku, he's going to have a reach disadvantage here. I like Fugitt's kicking game a lot. And again, the wrestling, I think when you mix a bunch of those things together, you have a lot of challenges to overcome. I'm going to take Fugitt by decision in this fight. I think a lot of people are picking the under 2.5, but Fugitt showed a very good chin versus Michael Morales.
Yeah, he did.
Like, he went to the third round, and he also hit. He's got a very good right hook. If you guys haven't seen this right hook, watch the Solomon Renfro fight where he put him down. He fucking loves his left high kick and left body kick. But he is facing a southpaw here, so I don't know if it's going to come into play. But he might still use low leg kicks, get opportunities there. And this dude will fight for he'll fight for the money, so I like him as a dog. I see this as a pick'em. And I think Yusaku's viral knockout in the Contender Series overhypes him a lot, but at the same time, he has looked very good.
And he's still only 22.
Right. And he's 7-0. I mean, that disqualification, but he was stomping on the dude's face. That was the one he got DQ'd on. But like I said, this is a very challenging fight, and I think Fugitt, people just don't know about this guy as well. In terms of technique, though, I could see Yusaku controlling the fight on the feet, but I like the factor of the takedown swinging this fight. So, Adam Fugitt by decision. Okay, for the next fight, we have the return of Doo-Ho Choi versus Kyle Nelson. Choi, picking him here by knockout in the first round. He's got that explosive power, and he's fought in the UFC in a row 3 very good opponents, and he's coming off a 3-year break due to military service and stuff, and that also could come with maturity when that time frame. Typically, I look at like 30 to 33 as a fighter's prime, or 27 to 33 probably, but Choi has that really good power. Kyle Nelson is the stiffest 155er you will ever see. I don't know what is wrong with this dude's like frame, but every time he throws a punch, his head is like stiff as a board. And he fought Jai Herbert. Jai Herbert was super nervous in that fight, and he's took a lot of damage from Billy Q. This dude is kind of a killer be killed type of fighter, and I like the under 2.5 in this fight. I've also bet that, and I think that line continues to go down as we speak. But Choi doesn't have the greatest striking defense. That's why it makes me nervous to actually bet directly on him. And I think that he'll use his power and run across the cage and probably get a viral knockout, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he probably does have some cage rust coming off the 3-year layoff, but I would still be picking him. I don't really like Kyle Nelson that much. He is killer be killed, except for in that Jai Herbert one, which
he over
in that. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the over under was in that. I can't remember, but
1.5 probably. Herbert just fought so nervous because of that brutal knockout.
Yeah, the line for that was probably -200 on the under.
Right.
But anyways, yeah, we do like Choi here to win.
Yeah, I think
this should have been in the Korean crowd as well. So
I think if you mix in the lack of defense for either person and the power of either person, I like a finish in this fight. So comeback fight for Doo-Ho Choi, KO round 1. Okay, for the next fight, we have Marcin Tybura versus Blagoy Ivanov. We're picking Tybura. He's done pretty good against wrestlers in his career, and Blagoy hasn't had the most damage in his fights. If you watch, obviously his last fight versus DeLima, we picked him in that fight. He won that fight, but he also just held him against the cage to win it. And Tybura's a guy who doesn't slow down like these other heavyweights do. I think he's going to be slightly better in the stand-up. And if it goes up to the cage, I think Tybura will have enough urgency to get away from it and win this fight. So I like Tybura to win a decision here.
Yeah, by decision. I don't see either one of these guys knocking each other out.
It'd only
I mean,
be
they
volume for Tybura, but I think Ivanov's too tough as well.
right. Yeah, Ivanov hasn't had a finish since 2017 and was hasn't been finished since 2014 against Volkov and Bellator. So I mean, these dudes are he's tough and durable, so I don't see a finish happening here.
I also like that Tybura's been very like active in his career. I think Ivanov had that big break between these fights, and I like the fact that Tybura is usually in the cage every 6 months or whatever. Yeah, Marcin Tybura by decision. Okay, for the next fight we have Da Eun Young versus Devin Clark. I'm picking Da Eun Young here by a knockout in the second round. I'm gonna pick. That knockout that he just had against Dustin Jacoby. You're facing a very technical striker. It looks like he didn't see the punch coming, and it also just landed on a weird part of the head where he kind of just went down instantly. And overall in his career, I mean, this guy's just been real strong and very imposing on people. That Kenny and Joku knockout, pretty brutal. And also has the wrestling to back things up. Devin Clark's way of winning fights is his wrestling and somewhat his toughness. But when you're facing this big of a guy who's going to see your strikes coming because you're not that technical of a striker, I see Devin Clark getting put down here. And yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, by knockout, you like in Young?
Yeah, he should easily control this on the feet. He's got great elbows in the clinch. And I think Devin Clark gets really tired because he'll try to take him down like so many times.
Yeah, I like that. Most of Clark's losses are by finish. He's been finished by
Murzakanov.
yeah, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann before that, I remember, and probably a couple other higher level guys. But yeah, Da Young should be better here and find the knockout.
Yeah, versus Murzakanov, he didn't really have a moment in that fight. I know Murzakanov's good, but like he couldn't even get a strike on the guy. So you factor in that, and then the size, 6'4" versus 6 foot, and the possible weapons he could use. I'm all over Da Young. So Young knockout round 2. Okay, for the main event we have Derrick Lewis versus Sergey Spivak. Before we get into it, drop a like, subscribe, leave a comment on the video, and we appreciate your guys' support. And hopefully we have a good betting week this week. But yeah, in this fight we're going with Sergey Spivak. It's kind of hard in these heavyweight fights to get away from the wrestler. Spivak he's extremely good at hip tosses and just not having to use a double leg. And for these dudes that stand straight up like Derrick Lewis and aren't super balanced, he'll probably flip him right on his back. And I like him to get a ground and pound knockout in round 2. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you can never count out Derrick Lewis, especially when he has the touch of death like he does, and at plus 200 or whatever he's at. I mean, I don't think it's worth betting on Sergey Spivak, but Lewis does have some pretty good wins against wrestlers like Curtis Blades, I should say, not Chris Dawkins, but right. Curtis Blades, Olenek, Latifi, and Blagoy Ivanov. It's also undefeated at the Apex, I'm pretty sure too.
Scary.
So
yeah,
there is that.
If this fight was in Texas, that would be a bad thing, but for Derrick...
Yeah, if it was in Texas, I think it'd beat Spivak all day.
But I think the first round, this fight could get a little dicey for Lewis and not be finished. I think that Derrick's always got that fuck it, I'm going to get up factor, where he'll just put his fist down and get up all of a sudden. You never know if that's going to happen. But Spivak does a good job of controlling people on the ground. And at his age, I don't think Derrick wants to really... he's not trying to fight for a fucking title. That's not who he is. I think that Derrick just kind of covers up the strikes after some point, and Spivak will just do light punches the side of the head until it's over.
Get full mount and just rain some ground and pound on him.
I have to say, this is one of the most unnecessary main events. Like, there's been so many other good fights they could have done, but like, you don't need a 5-round fight with these two. I mean, if it goes 5 rounds, I'd be fucking shocked. But it's either gonna be a slow fight at range, or it's gonna be Spivak on top of him, or Spivak sleeping on the ground from a Derrick Lewis punch. But
right, yeah, this isn't going 5 rounds.
They should have just found a replacement fight for Korea, and I don't know, something along those lines. But yep, I like Spivak KO round 2. We'll see if the Black Beast redeems his career here, but I think it's on the tail end. Okay, the betting recap for UFC 283. Pretty much the story of the event is that we got 2 fights wrong and lost units on that, and that was the Lazez and the Gregory Rodriguez fight. We went for minus 3.08 units, and first fight that we got right, though, the last fight of the night, Jamal Hill, I just felt very confident in his takedown defense compared to Jiri's that we'd seen prior, and Jamal really showed that he's a champion level fighter, and I liked him in this fight, and it showed, 50. Yeah,
I think he'd beat Yuri as well.
Yeah, I would pick him as well. I picked Brandon Moreno. Like I said, like, rematches are never the same as I've seen in my time of watching the UFC, and I think that was very apparent. When he fought Figgy, kind of knew to take the fight to the ground, slow the guy down. Got the finish. Wasn't super clean finish or what everybody wanted, but he did win the fight. Munir Lazez, as soon as Ishmael Bonfim knocked out Terrence McKinney, I think Gabriel Bonfim was just so fucking ready to go. And then this fight started at a high pace and dipped his head and got guillotined. I think he's still a quality fighter, but clearly shouldn't pick against the Bonfim brothers ever again. And now we'll get into Gregory Rodriguez, who ruined the night for our parlays. And I guess we were a little bit foolish to put in a fighter that was willing to brawl with a guy, because I kind of thought this was in the bag for him with the size advantage and everything, but Bruno Ferreira does hit hard. And unfortunately, he lost us 3 parlays, and he was the only losing leg of all of those and killed us. But yeah, shouldn't have put 2.75 units behind him. And all those other fights kind of went to plan for our parlays, right?
Right.
So, any thoughts on this stuff for the parlays?
Yeah, I mean, if Rodriguez wins, it's a +2 unit night or whatever.
Yeah, it was a 5-unit swing or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, to put too much stock in 2 fights, that was dumb. And then to polish it off, like I said, the other fight we really lost on was the Lazez fight. To start round 2, as soon as that fight started and they started going chaotic, I knew it wasn't going to go that long, and lost that pretty much instantly. And then Paul Craig, Johnny Walker, start round 3, no, easy leg to hit. But you live and learn. You learn with these bets, and I actually do feel pretty good about a lot of these spots on the next card, because you do your research, you feel pretty good about it, and yeah. Anything else you got?
Yeah, I mean, Bruno Ferreira was coming in on short notice, like 2 or 3 weeks short notice, and Rodriguez had a ton of momentum coming with him, so that's why I was so confident.
I mean, I felt very confident too. I think most people did, but he got hit twice in that fight. First time he looked really shocked after getting hit, and second time obviously went to sleep. But like, I don't know, either Bruno Ferreira's hit super fucking hard, or Rodriguez was just not prepared for what he was going up against. So, like I said,
probably a mixture of both.
And I didn't mention this. I don't know what my luck is with Rodriguez. He gets kneed in the fucking face versus Njokuani. I bet Njokuani. gets kneed in the face, gets a cut, the biggest ever seen, the worst ever seen, and the fight doesn't stop, and then he gets knocked out by a dude on short notice. That's a UFC debut. It's just like, I don't know what I could have done in either scenario, but he's got me twice now. So, yeah, moving on. Excited for Lewis versus Spivak. And check out the Instagram as always. NFL bets will be posted Sunday morning. And peace.
Peace.
I know. It doesn't matter from the trenches. I'm built like this. The aunt doubted me, said I couldn't do it. The aunt said I couldn't do it. Look at me now.